guys, what's going on? It is Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. Today we're going to talk about some cards that just plain suck inside Clash Royale. These cards are perfect candidates to get a rework, to get a buff, or simply to be deleted from the game. So we're going to talk about my top 8 worst cards inside the meta right now, and I'll give an explanation as to why I think they're bad and what can be done, if anything, to improve these cards. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in at number 8. Coming in at number 8 is the Goblin Hut. So the Goblin Hut is just suffering in the game right now. There's 2 spawners, actually 3 spawners, that are way better than the Goblin Hut, and those are Furnace, Goblin Cage, and Tombstone, if you consider the Goblin Cage a spawner. Coincidentally, Goblin Cage was the second worst card in the game the last time I did this list, so it goes to show you guys how cards on this list, just one simple buff or one simple rework or a couple buffs can take a card from dead to totally viable, as is the case with the Goblin Cage in the game right now. But enough about Goblin Cage. Goblin Hut just isn't worth it anymore for 5 elixir. I personally think that the Furnace is better for 4 elixir right now. Probably shows the power of the Furnace as opposed to the lackluster ability of the Goblin Hut. However, with Earthquake still, hovering around 5% use rate, Earthquake is a super hard counter to every building, to every spawner, especially to the Goblin and Barbarian Hut. That's why it makes this list as number 8. Coming in at number 7 are the Royal Recruits. Royal Recruits is one of these cards that I am not suggesting get a buff or a rework. I'm fine with the Royal Recruits the way they are. What do you guys think about Royal Recruits? I just remember the days when they were first introduced to the game about a year ago. Any of you OG Clashers remember these days and how dominant they were at 6 elixir? They were in like every deck archetype, and they were incredibly annoying to deal with. Not only are they the lowest skill cap card inside the entire game, I mean, there's not much that goes into them. 4 to one side, 2 to the other, or 3 to each. That's the only decision you have to make when dropping the Royal Recruits. I guess where to place them: behind your King Tower, at the bridge, or somewhere in between. Either way, I'm happy with them being kind of a niche card. I actually think that they're a good card in draft where you're unable to kind of plan out your entire deck. But other than that, there's just way better options out there in the game right now for 7 elixir rather than having 6 glorified guards that span the length of the arena. That's why they make the list at number 7. Alright, coming in at number 6, I had a 2-way tie. And they're both of the same family, I guess, of cards, right? It's the Wall Breakers and the Bomber. So a tie here. And the reason being is because neither of these cards in a vacuum are that horrible, I guess. But, there's better options for 3 elixir at both of those cards' usages. For example, the Wall Breakers, right? First of all, very uninteresting card considering they're an epic card. You guys know me. I'm a Wall Breaker hater, and I've been since day one, and it continues to be the case. Sure, the Wall Breaker Endless Stream Challenge, where there were dozens of Wall Breakers hitting your towers, yeah, that was kind of fun, but they really need to do impact damage to troops all around them in order to be viable, and I fear for them to do impact damage just when dying, essentially death damage, would make them too OP for 3 elixir. So for that reason, you know what? Go ahead and revert the card and kill it, Supercell. I'm okay with killing Wall Breakers. I don't think they're an interesting win condition at the very least, and even a secondary win condition, I'm just not a fan of them. The Bomber, despite all the buffs to Bomber, still struggles to maintain any sort of a use rate above 2% inside the meta. Some people say, hey, but they're a great low arena card, Ash. Both these cards are great for noobs who are just picking up the game. But the fact remains the same. The card use rates aren't even that high at lower level arenas. So even new players are like, yeah, I don't want a piece of those cards. That's why they come in at number 6 on the list. Coming in at number 5 on the list is the Mirror. Now, I talked about this last ranking video, but I am a fan of the Mirror 3.5 years ago. I was a fan of the Mirror when it was first introduced to the game, one of the original epic cards inside Clash Royale. And why? Why was it good back then and it wasn't great, but why was it somewhat usable back then and not usable right now? Again, Mirror is one of those cards that in draft, not that bad when you need the extra redundancy because you're not able to make a well-balanced deck. However, However, right now, when you have the luxury of picking from 94, 95 cards upon the release of the next card, I mean, what do you don't have to have the mirror in the deck. You can have a card. There's probably 2 or 3 or 4 cards that do what you need it to do in the games. You have your selection from all of those cards. You don't need to mirror a card. There's so much redundancy in Clash Royale now. Think about range units. There's the Hunter, the Executioner, the Musketeer, the E-Wiz, the Ice Wiz. I could just keep going on and on and on. Cannon Cart Bowler. And there's just so many cards you can choose from that, again, you don't need to duplicate with the mirror. So mirror right now, just not very useful anymore. Mirror back in the day when the only 3 air cards in the game were Balloon, Minions, and Baby Dragon, sure, could be useful here and there in some decks. Not anymore. That's why it makes the list at number 5. At number 4 is the Fisherman. So, the Fisherman, the only legendary card on the list, would you believe it? Poor Fisherman, man. They're gonna make him target air in the next balance changes. At least they say they're probably going to do that before I put words in Supercell's mouth. It'll be interesting to see if the Fisherman is the card on this list that we look back at next list and say, wow, remember when Fisherman sucked? Now he's OP, he's in every sort of deck, similar to the Goblin Cage. However, that is not the case right now. Currently, Fisherman is a dead card inside your deck and a dead card inside your hand more often than not. I would much rather use the 3 elixir Tornado card rather than the 4 elixir Fisherman card, who doesn't really do anything special other than cluster your deck and prevent you from cycling to the cards you actually need in a larger variety of situations. So Fisherman, although the concept is pretty cool, although you can have effective decks with the Fisherman, not in my deck. So we're gonna go ahead and put him in at number 4 on this list. Coming in at number 3 is the other spawner. It's the Barbarian Hut. The Barbarian Hut is a top 3 worst card inside Clash Royale, in the opinion of yours truly. What can they do to fix Barbarian Hut? Delete it from the game. Delete it from the game, Supercell. Of course, they've never deleted a card ever from the game, but hey, I'm gonna say it anyway for the video. But I don't think it's an interesting card anymore. It costs too much elixir. It's hard to make that big of an investment for not much of a return. Everybody knows how to counter a couple Barbarians. They can drop a Baby D and stack that Baby D or a Bowler and get tons of counter push value out of it. It's just not, sometimes it's a bad play to put down a Barbarian Hut on the arena, and the Goblin Cage does so much more and is 3 elixir cheaper than the Barbarian Hut. That Goblin Brawler is so valuable compared to a couple Barbarians. It can stop a Hog in a 4-for-4 trade, whereas a Barbarian Hut, of course, it can stop a Hog, but the Hog still chips away, and then sometimes the Barbarians get split. Either way, Barbarian Hut is just not a good card anymore inside the game. That's why it makes number 3 on our list. So we have a change in the top 2 worst cards. Well, same cards, different order. Number 2 is, because it's only 1 elixir, I'm going to put Heal at number 2. So Heal, at least you can cycle the card. Even if you throw it away, even if you're not using it for any good reason, hey, it's 1 elixir, who cares? You improved your cycle. Whereas the next card, number 1 on the list, there's no way to even cycle that card. So Heal, yeah, one of those things. I would much rather see the Paladin. You guys saw the Paladin idea in the last Supercell AMA a week or 2 ago. Yeah, they said they had the idea of a Paladin, kind of like a Royal Ghost type troop, mixed with a Knight, mixed with a Heal, that heals itself after every single swing. I love that idea. I would love to see the heal spell deleted, the Paladin card added, and there we go. Everybody's happy, and heal is not one of the worst cards in the game anymore. It's too situational, and half the time it's like the Fisherman, it's a dead card inside your hand. That's why it comes in at number 2 on the list. And number 1 on the list, ladies and gentlemen, you guessed it, my favorite card in the game, also the worst card in the game, unless it's 3, 4 levels above your opponent and raged up at the bridge. You know what card I'm talking about. Save the Elite Barbarians. Elite Barbarians are the worst card inside the game, and the stats back me up on this one. Elite Barbarians have the worst win rate inside grand challenges at tournament level standard, where your opponent cannot overlevel the card and bully you on like they can on ladder with Elite Barbarians, right? So when everything's equal, Elite Barbarians are the worst card inside the game, and it pains me to say that, as they're such a high skill, amazing card. Okay, I'm kind of saying that tongue-in-cheek for those of you who don't get the joke. I love Elite Barbarians, but they're a bad card. They're an awful card. For 6 elixir, man, you can barely get that much value out of them again, unless you're just over-leveling them because they're a common and bullying your opponents. The rework that Supercell did to Elite Barbarians clearly did not work, guys. They are worse than they were before. With the hit speed reduction, forget it, man. Elite Barbarians suck. They just suck. They're an awful card. So that's why they're going to be the worst on today's list of the worst cards in Clash Royale. Guys, what do you think of my list? Which cards did I leave off, or which card did I leave off? Let me know which card I'm forgetting and what card you would take off the list to substitute the card that you think I'm forgetting. Guys, thank you so much for watching all the way till the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Shout out to Bren Chong, my YouTube partner in Stats Royale, where I got the stats for this video. Guys, thank you, and as always, take care, guys.